I watch episode 17 of Pokémon every year, because I watch every episode of Pokémon every year. Episode 17, Island of the Giant Pokémon, begins much like the last. Ash wakes up in pain in an unfamiliar environment. At least this time it's not entirely his own fault. Ash has lost all of his Pokémon except for Pidgeotto and Butterfree, the only two Pokémon that Ash caught properly and honestly. The two that would have been the most useful in this situation. Pidgeotto could have once again scouted the surrounding areas for signs of life. That would have made this episode a lot shorter. Their foes are also without their Pokémon. We learn that Ekans and Koffing were not captured or stolen by their own hands, but were given as gifts from those who loved them. The fact that they did not obtain their Pokémon through skill either is not as surprising as the fact that there are those who care about them. All that they have aside from their work clothes is the sand that slips so quickly through their fingers. Pikachu finds Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander, but they are all still lost and alone. With their words properly translated for the first time, the limitless capacities of Pokémon are revealed. Beyond being able to fit in one's pocket, Pokémon are capable of advanced speech, complex social hierarchy, and emotional bandwidth. They feel fear, loneliness, and grief. They each have their own unique experience with abandonment. They're all rescues. Searching the shores, they encounter the Pokémon Slowpoke, which is short for Slow Pokémon, who exhibits the lower limit of Pokémon mental capacity. Slowpoke, much like Magikarp, does very little. It just lays on the beach, unresponsive to their plight, slowly poking the water, fishing. Slowpoke is one of the few Pokémon that catches other Pokémon. Charmander's and Pikachu's previous abandonment issues are still unresolved, or at least more unresolved than that of Bulbasaur and Squirtle, who quickly accept abandonment again. They've made peace with the idea of never finding peace. Night falls, and with it their hopes. Being stranded and separated is harder on them than it is those they call masters. They wander the wilds of the unfamiliar forest, imagining what great tragedies could be keeping them all still separated. The anxious mind wanders further than the body could ever go. They are met with a face that they wished they were never familiar with, Meowth, who even without the influence of humans acts maliciously. Meowth really puts the house in Housecat. When Mass is not around, he still tries to keep everyone in line. A subservient Meowth piece. Meowth is an Uncle Tom cat. But Ekans and Koffing excuse themselves from this wanton altercation, exclaiming that there are no evil Pokémon, just evil masters. They were just following orders. Pokémon don't hurt Pokémon, people hurt Pokémon. Without the humans around, there's no reason to fight. The Pokémon show self-sufficiency and participate in team-building activities around the campfire. Whilst the other Pokémon are bonding, Meowth is in bondage. They always manage to have some rope available. Meowth's only positive attributes thus far have been its autonomy and ability to speak, both of which are useless in this situation. But with everyone getting along in this episode, antagonists must be introduced. From the darkness, a Pokémon emerges, larger than any seen before, almost any. Pikachu, who just an episode ago was happy to watch Meowth suffer, frees his foe. Without masters and the manipulations of mankind, Pokémon are kinder and more altruistic. They are more of themselves. Without their Pokémon to protect them, the masters are no longer masters of anything. Without their Pokémon, they are nothing. They are helpless and subject to the cruelties that they were once masters of. Aimless, until stopped by a literal sign of life. Now bar hopping, the Pokémon have turned to the bottle, stifling their separation anxiety through substance abuse. Finding a lone phone booth in the forest, the criminals call their employer, clinging to their corporate identities. But the boss hangs up on them. Their Pokémon probably weren't gifts from him. Making no further calls, they use this plot device to reach the next plot device. A Pikachu intercedes their path, reminding them of their goals, their job, to capture a powerful Pokémon for a man who left them to die minutes ago. But this Pikachu is too powerful. Back to the primary plotline, the basic Pokemon bask in the presence of their final forms. They ask the old heads for aid, but where they see kinship, their forebears see kindling. They feel further fears that this is the future that the island has for them, if their masters are never found. That this is their supposed evolution, emboldened and voluminous but emotionally vacant. Grand destroyers, slaughterous colossuses. Colossi. The next plot device is a minecart on a track that leads to more uncertainty, on which the Stooges eagerly take passage. A lone minecart on a lone track. They break the brakes, making the situation worse, but also taking away their ability to further influence the situation at all, which actually makes the situation better. A singular path completely out of their control. They ride the rails through a sequence of dramatic death-defying haphazard heights leading to the final confluence of the cast. Together again, the theme music swells. It is completely swollen. Pokémon reunited in the realization that there is no better life for them outside of this. Their time apart spent learning to further fear freedom and power. Then a final reveal. They had nothing in common with the evils pursuing them. They were not Pokémon at all, but cold metal machines made of nuts and bolts. Not to say that there aren't actual Pokémon like that. Man-made horrors meant to further exploit the identities of the Pokémon they represent for the sake of capitalism. The Pokémon have been trying to escape the same thing that they've been trying to find: humanity. The entire island is just a tourist trap of facsimile and folly. Island of the giant fake Pokémon that exist only to excite from afar. The theme of this theme park is emptiness. It was just another expression of untenable overabundance. What Pokémon would be if they were under their complete control, limited in every aspect, and there is no land untouched by the clawing hands of consumerism. What began 3 episodes ago as an invitation to indulge in opulence ends in its inadvertent annihilation, and Ash and friends finally return to greater civilization, where more traumatic tangents await, but also the promise of progress. All of Ash's Pokémon are now once again safely secured within their Pokéballs, except for Pikachu, of course, who still wisely refuses such indignity. Pikachu alone still advocates for freedom. As the sun sets on the beach, Slowpoke is Slowpoke no longer, but Slowbro, from Slow Pokémon to Slow Brother, who in true slow fashion evolved after its reveal in the Who's That Pokémon segment. Who's That Pokémon? We got there eventually. Slowbro, like Slowpoke, may appear to be slow, but it still managed to accomplish more whilst just laying still than Ash has over the course of the last 3 episodes. When left with the time management skills of a 10-year-old, things tend to end up having to be continued.